So if you've been keeping up with peak fiction, Jujutsu Kaisen that is, then you know Sukuna's 15 fingers deep inside of Megumi right now, and has been plotting on him for years at this point. We're not gonna forget how he said this just a few chapters ago, right? Right, live your truth, king. Anyways, y'all know what I'm here to talk about, and it's why Sukuna's plan to sink Megumi's soul will fail miserably. Sukuna's plan to sink Megumi's soul is revealed in chapter 217 when he decides to kill Tsukimi Fushiguro, his sister, with Megumi's own technique. And while we're on the topic of Tsukimi Fushiguro, let's talk about the binding vow that he made to marry her if he loses their fight. If you're not familiar with binding vows, it's essentially a promise that you have to keep. As of yet, we have not seen the consequences for defaulting on one, but if Sukuna himself is afraid to do so, then you know it holds some serious weight. There are also about 2 instances of where we find out the vows are broken. The first is when Yuta kills Itadori and then brings him back to life using reverse curse technique. Second being when Sukuna takes a gamble and shoves Yuji's dirty ass finger down the back of Megumi's throat. And even in both of these instances, the vows technically aren't broken. We know that in the verse of Jujutsu Kaisen, those who are possessed still have the ability to observe the outside world. Sukuna with Yuji, Angel, and now Megumi with a few examples that'll come later. Speaking of him, he's been taking straight L's lately. Like, just so we get this straight, if Sukuna somehow loses this fight, Megumi has to witness Sukuna clap his sister's cheeks for the rest of his life from his own body. But if Sukuna wins the fight, that means he has to watch powerlessly as she gets her ass beat and killed. I'm not gonna lie, bro, I really feel for him, but we'll get to the importance of that later on. Anyway, the embers of his resistance tend to flare up at times, typically when harm comes to those that he cares about. Right now, we know that Megumi's soul isn't completely submerged in the darkness, but is pretty much almost completely suppressed. Sukuna mentions here that Fushiguro does not have the ability to control his own motor skills, but had halted Sukuna's cursed energy output to about 10% of his total power. Oddly enough, Megumi is most likely able to do this because, similar to Yuji, he also has the potential to suppress him and become a cage as opposed to a vessel. He's not able to do this quite yet because, as far as we know, he's just not like that. Yuji's literally built different. You know, with all this illusion and indication towards Megumi's untapped potential, there's really only one thing I fear, and that's what I like to call the Gohan effect. If you've seen Dragon Ball Z, then you already know what I'm talking about, and it's when you have like a pretty cool character that shows flashes of greatness and is pretty well loved by fans, and then gets done dirty. For some reason, Akira Toriyama hates every character not named Goku, and to be fair, I don't think Gege is that type of author. All the characters in JJK are well written and fleshed out. He might end up being the Gohan of the series, not Megumi. Megumi isn't exactly the most expressive person, but he doesn't exactly hide who he cares about. And obviously, he cares for his sister deeply. Losing her is bound to cause some negative impact on Megumi's psyche, which is exactly what Sukuna's banking on in order to break him. Sukuna's hoping that it'll extinguish the small flames of resistance that we've seen, but it won't. We all know how unpredictable of a writer Gege can be, and nobody could have possibly seen Sukuna's takeover coming. And if you did, leave a comment on how you knew. We know that the fuel for all cursed energy is negative emotions, and sources are trained to keep those negative emotions in check due to the potential for shit to hit the fan if they don't. The concept is displayed right before our eyes when Naruto becomes a cursed spirit after being killed without the application of cursed energy. Megumi, as a cursed shadows user, is intimately familiar with the concept of darkness, so essentially Sukuna would be pushing him towards his biggest strength. The accumulation of this negative energy may rebound in a manner that is detrimental to Sukuna. Speaking of rebounding, do you remember Nobara's fight with Mahito? This brings us to the second reason why Sukuna's plan will fail. Nobara has the potential to exploit his biggest weakness. In her fight with Mahito, she used resonance to attack his double, which was linked to his soul and harm his main body. Although this theory has been mentioned before, I haven't seen anybody state that her ability could be used on the fingers that Sukuna hasn't absorbed yet. This is something that even Gojo isn't capable of. Let's think about this for a second. If Purple was capable of destroying the fingers, there would have been no need to even use Yuji in the first place. Now you may be wondering, why is Nobara even being mentioned? Isn't she dead? She might be, but it's also entirely possible that she's alive. There are 2 ways Nobara may have survived. The first being that she did not die despite what was being said and she was in a near-death state. The second reason is that she was killed and then later brought back using a reverse curse technique, similar to how Yuji was brought back to life almost instantaneously after his death. Although Nobara hasn't been shown to display the aptitude and what's needed to possess a reverse curse technique, before her death she exclaims how she can feel the core of curse energy and even recalls her experience with a black flash to aid in that. It wouldn't be a stretch to say she's possibly undergoing an awakening of sorts. The Reddit user Olabeas also points out how untimely Nobara's death would be, as Nanami dies just a few chapters earlier, and that keeping her death a mystery doesn't serve much of a purpose from a literary standpoint outside of allowing a gateway to bring her back. Assuming Nobara has help, she's truly one of the few that can take advantage of Sukuna's biggest weakness, and by few I mean like The only one. Sukuna is too skilled of a sorcerer to be harmed by superficial means, and with outstanding healing that could rival Wolverine's, attacking his soul is the only way to inflict lasting damage. If you enjoyed this video today, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.